What happens on the battlefield is very different from Russia's propaganda. The battlefield realities are filled with shattered convoys, tanks caught in flames, and exploding armored personnel carriers. Today we compiled the most striking moments from the front for you again. And if you watch us until the end of the video, you'll have the chance to see how a Russian armored vehicle fell into such fear that it would run over its own soldiers. A Russian army convoy with 2 BMP-2s in the front lines preparing for attack south of Burlatske village in the Donetsk region was dangerously approaching Ukrainian trenches. Ukrainian army soldiers and drone operators were waiting ready. Their ambushes were prepared. From their hidden positions, they had already aimed their barrels at the Russian armor, hands on triggers. First, Ukrainian artillery entered action, starting a relentless fire in steel storm. Shells rained on the advancing armored vehicles, pierced through the ground, and the first salvo roared, making the battlefield ring with its powerful sound. One missed, but the second was a direct hit. It struck the front Russian armor. This hit destroyed their momentum and left behind only a burning wreck. Right behind the group, Russians were trying to advance with 2 modified tank Blitbarns carrying infantry. Ukraine used about 60 FPV drones to stop them. The attack was carried out by the 28th Brigade and Curtin Company. First, 1 tank was destroyed, the second was set on fire, and the infantry was eliminated. Armored vehicles equipped with extraordinary camouflage trying to hide on terrain were being hunted one by one. Ukrainian operators were tightening their attacks with each pass and successfully destroying their targets one by one. When an armored personnel carrier trying to escape was hit on terrain, the infantry coming out of it started being tracked. While operators never took their eyes off monitors, drone buzzing and screen shaking filled the room. They knew very well what even one escaped vehicle could cost. Another escaping one was successfully destroyed by FPV operators. Friends, if you, like us, want Ukraine to win, write Slava Ukraina in the comments. And an armored vehicle at a road junction was cut off and not allowed to escape. After all armor was cleared, it was time for infantry trying to hide. A Russian soldier hiding among trees in the forest. Those hiding in surrounding village houses also couldn't escape from skilled operators. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications as we continue to provide the latest news. Ukrainian soldiers are ready to meet the convoy, about to set out. There are surprise characters among them. Some are Colombian volunteers serving in the Ukrainian armed forces. The Sicario unit launched a powerful fire attack on Russian army soldiers escaping from the convoy, successfully destroying all targets.
The Russian army has started to conduct large-scale operations against the Ukrainian armed forces during high-level Russia-America talks. Reports indicate that Russia is preparing to besiege 4 cities at the same time, and the Ukrainian armed forces will have to respond to multiple crises at once, which seems to be creating great difficulties for the command staff. As a result, the front will expand in every direction, and they will be expecting a breakthrough. This process of attack has already begun in Pokrovsk, Konstantinovka, Lyman, and Kupiansk could follow. In one of these attacks, the East Force Group of the Russian army captured the Iskra settlement using motorized units, FPV drones, and infantry in a large-scale assault. They immediately began a flag show and started broadcasting the footage on social media and television. With this move, the Russian army not only captured a settlement but also seized psychological superiority in the operation. Following the victory in Iskra, Russian forces, without losing any time, took steps to consolidate their new gains. The captured settlements were turned into a base for further operations, FPV command centers were established, and supply lines were quickly connected there. While the enemy relentlessly increased pressure in the Pokrovsk direction, they also began to shift their forces towards Konstantinovka and Lyman, their morale boosted by completing the first phase of a major offensive. Ukrainian defense lines are progressively falling back under this simultaneous pressure from all directions, and Russian troops are determinedly continuing their advance. The front line is expanding in every direction, and a major breakthrough moment seems closer than ever. If you want Ukraine to win, just like we do, write Slava Ukraini. A thunderous roar shattered the pre-dawn silence near Kupiansk. A mechanized assault unit of the Russian army was rapidly advancing toward the city's left bank with 2 tanks, 3 MTLB armored vehicles, and approximately 40 soldiers. The metallic rumble of the heavy armor was the harbinger of an imminent clash. This was not just an attempt to gain a position, it was a dangerous initiative that would change the balance of the entire front line and provide the enemy with a critical crossing point. However, the enemy did not know that this cunning advance was being watched from the sky. Ukraine's most elite units came together against this threat. With the coordinated actions of the Achilles UAV Regiment, the 116th Mechanized Brigade, and the 15th Border Guard Brigade, Black Mountain, the enemy's plan was to be thwarted. The Achilles operators in the sky instantly detected the enemy convoy and transmitted live footage to the ground. With this critical intelligence, the anti-tank missile teams of the 116th Mechanized Brigade and the 15th Border Guards prepared to make the right move at the right time. The operation began! The first strike came from an Achilles FPV drone. The target was one of the tanks at the head of the convoy. Then, the power of the 116th Mechanized Brigade came into play. Precise ATGM shots targeted the remaining tanks and MTLBs one by one. Explosions successively left the enemy convoy in flames. Confusion and panic spread instantly. The Russian soldiers were neutralized right where they stood without even understanding what was happening to them. In just a matter of minutes, the entire enemy convoy was turned into a pile of wreckage. When the dust of the battle settled, all that remained were the metal heaps of burned armored vehicles and the silent testimony of the enemy's defeat. This operation did not only repel an attack, it was an absolute victory that proved the coordination capability of Ukrainian units and their equipment once again by destroying the enemy's entire mechanized force. The eyes of Achilles, the will of the 116th Brigade, and the unwavering defense of Black Mountain showed the whole world that the road to Kupiansk is impassable. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to be instantly notified about new videos. While an epic victory was won in Kupiansk, another success story was being written against the enemy on another part of the front in the Pokrovsk direction. The Kizaki Vysot Hunters of Heights unit of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces was tasked with destroying a critical area where, according to intelligence reports, more than a dozen enemy soldiers were located. Using all the advantages the terrain offered, the operators approached the enemy positions undetected through the bushes and engaged in close quarters combat. This was not just an attack, but an operation to establish immediate superiority by surprising the enemy. Special Operations Forces operator Rudia describes the moment. We spotted a bunker and heard conversations from inside. We immediately opened fire without hesitation. The clash was short and sharp. While most of the enemies were instantly neutralized, a few Russian Special Forces soldiers were captured alive. This was not only a victory, but also a moment when vital intelligence was seized. The coordinates of the positions were instantly shared with drone bombardment teams, and the drones destroyed 3 cars, 2 motorcycles, a mortar, and a bunker, laying waste to the enemy's entire infrastructure. With this operation, the Hunters of Heights completely eliminated the enemy force and once again proved how determined and lethal Ukraine's resistance is. Meanwhile, the Guards stopped the Russian army's attack attempts in the Kupiansk direction. The enemy deployed assault forces along with 4 MTLB armored vehicles and 1 tank. As a result of coordinated fire by the separate artillery brigade of the Ukrainian National Guards with neighboring units, the enemy's equipment and personnel were destroyed. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the enemy was attacking from concealed positions behind the front line. A Russian tank, whose location could not be determined, was firing relentlessly from inside its bunker and posed a serious threat to Ukrainian defense positions. This ghost tank could not be targeted by conventional methods and continued to bring only destruction. However, the enemy forgot that Ukraine was not only fighting on the front lines. The SBU's cyber department began a digital hunt to find this invisible threat. Using advanced intelligence and electronic warfare systems, they located the position of the enemy's tank hiding in the bunker and the presence of another nearby tank in seconds. This was a victory of information, one of the deadliest weapons in modern warfare. The coordinates were immediately transmitted to strike units. With precise artillery and drone strikes from the Ukrainian forces, both of the enemy's tanks were hit at the same time. The tank firing from its concealed position was annihilated, while the other tank was instantly neutralized. By bringing its cyber operation capabilities directly to the front line, the SBU's cyber department destroyed 2 of the enemy's deadliest armored vehicles and once again proved the power of intelligence in modern warfare. Soldiers of the 47th Mechanized Brigade Magura of the Ukrainian army, which is almost stopping Russia's advance, also destroyed a Russian truck carrying weapons at a critical point in the Slobozhanskina direction. Threats over Ukraine's vital supply routes are being rapidly eliminated. A MiG-29 fighter jet crew of the Ukrainian Air Force, using precise intelligence, targeted the key Russian positions and checkpoints on the supply routes. The mission was to ensure that not a single shot would go to waste. With successful strikes from a high altitude, the enemy's entire infrastructure and defense positions were destroyed. This operation not only secured a logistical line, but also allowed the units on the front line to breathe. The MiG-29 once again proved Ukraine's unwavering power in the sky. The MiG-29 Second are at work again. This time, they destroyed the command center of a Russian brigade in Soledar with an airstrike. The building is in an unusable state, and the troops and ammunition inside were also destroyed. The surrounding Russian soldiers scrambled to save their supplies, but their efforts were in vain. Infiltrating enemy groups from the front line never stopped. Some of these groups, in an attempt to set up a cunning ambush, had laid mines on Ukrainian territory, but they failed to complete their task properly. On military road crossing routes, mines that were not fully buried had dangerously surfaced, waiting for the next Ukrainian unit to pass. However, this carelessness of the enemy was noticed by one of Ukraine's most vigilant operators, the Bulava unit. The operators instantly detected this mortal danger and developed a quick solution. Instead of clearing the mines by hand, they decided to use a remotely controlled FPV drone. From a safe distance, the operators guided the drone over the mines with the precision of a surgeon. With a successful strike from the drone, the mines exploded one after another. The successive explosion sounds indicated that the enemy's failed plan was thwarted. This operation did not only mean the destruction of a series of mines, it also meant ensuring the safe passage of hundreds of soldiers, armored vehicles, and equipment. With this smart and risk-free maneuver, the Bulava unit eliminated the cunning traps set by the enemy and once again ensured the safety of Ukrainian units. In the battlefield, the most dangerous moments are often the most silent ones. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russian army had used every curve and bush of the terrain to establish a network of bunkers, trenches, and concealed positions. This was an invisible threat that prevented the advance of further units on the front. The task of eliminating this cunning network was given to Ukraine's most elite and courageous warriors, the Special Operations Forces, operators. The darkness of the night and the complexity of the terrain became an advantage for the SSO operators. Like ghosts, they silently infiltrated the enemy lines unnoticed. Every step was taken with caution, every whisper lost in the sound of the wind. The objective was to attack the enemy from the closest distance, using the element of surprise. This required close contact, the deadliest and riskiest form of combat. The plan worked flawlessly. As they approached the first position, there was no turning back. The SSO operators moved suddenly and with complete coordination. The sound of gunfire mixed with the explosion of grenades, and the enemy was caught completely by surprise. The darkness was suddenly illuminated, and the clash reached its peak in seconds. The enemy's soldiers could not stand against the speed and determination of a professional team. The close quarters battle was short, every trench and bunker was swiftly cleared. The resistance of the Russian soldiers was broken, some were captured, and others were neutralized. When the operation was completed, all that remained were the captured positions and the enemy's failed efforts. The SSO operators not only broke the enemy's resistance, but also opened a vital path for the advance of the front line. This success once